This courtroom hearing starts like any other, but within moments, it turns into a tense legal showdown. A man standing before the judge insists he is a Moorish American national and claims the state's laws don't apply to him. But the judge quickly points out a serious problem. The defendant has already missed 3 previous court dates, arrived unprepared, and now faces multiple charges, including driving with a suspended license, forgery, and speeding. As the hearing continues, the judge reviews the record and reveals that arrest warrants were already issued after the defendant failed to appear at a final pre-trial conference. The defendant tries to explain himself, arguing about addresses and legal status, but his arguments only deepen the court's frustration. His casual attitude and refusal to follow normal court procedures add to the tension, making it clear that this is no ordinary appearance. What follows is a powerful reminder of how the legal system responds when someone refuses to recognize its authority. The judge firmly explains that anyone choosing to represent themselves must still obey courtroom rules and respect the process. With patience running out and the warrants already active, the hearing reaches its turning point. In a decisive moment, the judge orders the defendant's immediate arrest on the existing bench warrants. Officers move in, and the courtroom atmosphere shifts instantly from debate to enforcement. The defendant is taken into custody and held on bond, ending the hearing with a clear message: no matter what claims someone makes about their status, the court's authority cannot simply be ignored. This dramatic exchange shows how quickly a routine hearing can escalate, and why understanding the law, respecting the court, and showing up prepared can make all the difference.
213ST alleges driving suspended second offense on January 31st, 2021 here in St. Joseph County. File 202073 alleges driving suspended on September 17th here in St. Joseph County. I think there may be a speeding charge with that. File 202653 also charges driving suspended second offense and forgery and speeding. All of those matters were scheduled for jury trial today, November 10th. Mr. Morrow Bay wishes to represent himself on these matters. He has a perspective on the Michigan Motor Vehicle Code that disagrees with the state's version of it, but he didn't want an attorney and didn't wish to have representation. He wanted to represent himself in all of these matters. So we treated him like an attorney. We set the matter for a final pretrial to prepare for jury trial. And he didn't show up. So there are presently 3 arrest warrants for Mr. Morrow Bay's arrest for failing to appear for duly scheduled last pretrials about 3 weeks ago. We don't show up on the morning of trial with a basket full of papers and inconvenience 30 to 50 jurors who have to come in and hear your case and several witnesses without preparing for it. So we scheduled a pretrial conference and you didn't show up. So I've called off the jurors for today and the prosecutor has called off all the witnesses. And there are currently 3 separate warrants for your arrest for failing to appear. But you're here now.
I think I was on the
we sent that to the address that you gave us. And if you're representing yourself, you need to act like you're representing yourself. We sent you duly notice to your Sage Street address in Kalamazoo. The same notice you got for this.
I don't live there anymore, and I can't represent myself. I am myself.
All right. Well, I'm not clairvoyant. I don't know that you moved. So, Mr. McNair, you're driving me crazy. I'm going to put you in the waiting room you're walking all over the place and flashing the screen and giving me vertigo, and you're sideways and upside down. And so I'll be with you in a bit. Don't go away. Yes, that's your position. Then you're not doing a very good job of it, because you didn't tell me where you lived. You didn't show up for a pretrial while we prepare for this. And now you come rolling in with a hat on the morning that your 30 or 40 jurors are supposed to be here. That's not a very good way to do business.
It's my religious headdress. I'm a Moorish American national.
Yes, I recall. All right.
Proven jurisdiction to begin with.
Ms. Davis is here.
I'm still waiting for jurisdiction.
On behalf of the prosecutor's office. Ms. Davis, you have any thought on this?
Your Honor, I would ask that he be held in contempt for failing to appear at the last pretrial. I would also ask that an order enter regarding discovery if all of these items that he's holding on to are intended to be used as exhibits at the trial. I would like to have copies of those so that we can be prepared. Also, I'd like to have our motion for joinder of the cases heard so we can settle that matter prior to choosing the jury and having another date set.
Right in the middle of my busy arraignment morning when I have 14 people waiting to be arraigned, that probably won't work out too good. But it's all on him. He didn't show up. He also got notice of your motion. Mr. Morrow Bay, do you have documents that you were going to present as part of your defense?
I mean, I mailed in documents and I never got a response.
Well, did you have some? Do you have some you wish to present?
Well, I mailed in an affidavit to you more than once, and this is also my legal notice for my lawful name change, because I put it on the record that I'm a Moorish American national and I'm not American or a U.S. citizen. Excuse me. I'm a man of the land. I'm native to the land. So so a lot of these rules that the state of Michigan is creating is not applicable to me, unfortunately.
If you guys enjoy content like this, I'd really appreciate a like and subscribe. It really helps out the channel. Let's get back to the video.
And I was trying to be respectful to the court and let the court know since the beginning in a respectful manner. And I have lots of documentation to prove it.
All right. I want you to take Mr. Perdue into custody. We're going to execute the 3 bench warrants that are currently out for his arrest for contempt. We'll take him to jail and we'll make an arrangement later to discuss.
Are you arresting me right now? Wow.
I don't have time to do it now. Thank you. Bye. Mr. Perdue, you're going to jail, the St. Joe County Jail here in St. Joe County, and I'm going to hold on to you in lieu of 3 $1,000 bonds till we can review your contempt and the other things we need to deal with. But if you're going to represent yourself, you need to do it right. You need to show up when you're supposed to show up. You need to follow the rules of evidence and procedure. You don't just come in and say, I'm my own country, I'm going to do what I want. So you're going to jail.
I was unaware.
The bond is $1,000 per file, and I will talk with you later. So right now you're going to the St. Joe County Jail. All right, we'll deal with him, Deborah, when we have more time. But he's clearly in contempt, and he is.
The courtroom is calm but serious as the defendant is brought forward, and from the very beginning, it's clear this hearing carries more weight than usual. The judge looks down at the file, already aware of the history behind this case, while the man standing before the bench appears determined to argue his position. What follows is not just a discussion about traffic violations or paperwork, it becomes a clash between personal claims and the authority of the court. The judge starts by confirming the defendant's identity and reviewing the list of charges currently pending against him. The record shows multiple incidents of driving with a suspended license, not once but 3 separate times. Alongside those charges are additional allegations, including speeding and forgery. Each of these cases had been moving through the legal system and were already scheduled for a jury trial, meaning the court had given the defendant plenty of time to prepare his defense and follow the proper legal process. But the real issue, the judge explains, is not just the charges themselves. The larger problem is the defendant's repeated failure to appear in court when ordered to do so. The judge carefully outlines the timeline. Previous hearings were scheduled, notices were sent, and opportunities were provided for the defendant to address the situation. Yet, on multiple occasions, he simply did not show up. One of those missed appearances was a final pre-trial conference, an important step before trial that cannot be skipped without serious consequences. Because of those absences, the court issued bench warrants for the defendant's arrest. The judge explains that a warrant is not issued lightly. It represents the court's enforcement power when someone ignores a lawful order to appear. The system relies on people showing up when required, and when that doesn't happen, the court must act to maintain order and fairness. When asked about the missed hearings, the defendant tries to explain that he no longer lives at the address where the notices were sent. He suggests that this is why he didn't receive the court's communications. The judge listens but responds firmly that it is the defendant's responsibility to keep the court informed of any change in address. The legal process cannot stop every time someone moves or fails to update their contact information. The obligation to stay reachable and informed lies with the person facing the charges. As the conversation continues, the defendant shifts his argument to something much broader. He declares that he is a Moorish American national and begins suggesting that, because of this status, the laws of the state do not apply to him in the same way. The courtroom grows quieter as the judge lets him finish speaking, giving him the chance to fully express his position. Once the defendant finishes, the judge responds in a calm but unmistakably direct tone. The court does not operate on personal declarations of sovereignty or alternative legal interpretations. Regardless of how someone identifies themselves, the judge explains, the laws of the jurisdiction apply to anyone present within it. Personal beliefs do not cancel legal responsibilities, and the court cannot dismiss charges based on a claim that someone stands outside the system. The judge emphasizes that this is not about personal identity or philosophy. It is about the rule of law and the functioning of the judicial process. Courts must apply the same standards to everyone, otherwise, the system would collapse into inconsistency and confusion. The defendant is reminded that if he wishes to challenge the charges, he must do so through recognized legal arguments, evidence, and procedures, not through claims that the court lacks authority over him. The hearing then turns to the question of readiness. The judge asks whether the defendant is prepared to move forward with trial or present any legal motions. The response is unclear and unfocused, reinforcing the impression that the defendant has not properly prepared for this stage of the case. The judge notes that the court has already provided ample time for preparation and that delays caused by non-appearance and lack of readiness cannot continue indefinitely. Another important issue is addressed: the defendant's decision to represent himself. The judge explains that self-representation is a constitutional right, but it is also a serious responsibility. Acting as one's own lawyer does not mean ignoring legal rules or deadlines. It means taking on the full burden of understanding procedures, filing proper documents, presenting arguments appropriately, and respecting courtroom protocol. The judge carefully explains that the court cannot give special treatment simply because someone chooses not to hire an attorney. The same expectations apply. If anything, representing oneself requires even greater diligence, because there is no professional advocate to correct mistakes or guide the process. The defendant is reminded that failing to follow procedures can have real and immediate consequences. As the discussion continues, the judge reviews the active bench warrants already in place due to the prior failures to appear. These warrants remain valid and enforceable, regardless of what arguments are made during the hearing. The defendant's explanations and claims do not erase the fact that lawful court orders were ignored. The record is clear, and the court must now decide how to proceed. The atmosphere in the courtroom grows more tense as it becomes clear that the judge's patience is nearing its limit. The defendant continues to insist on his interpretation of his legal status, but the judge repeatedly brings the focus back to the documented facts, missed hearings, active warrants, and unresolved charges. The court's role is not to debate abstract theories but to enforce the law as written. In a steady and authoritative voice, the judge explains that the judicial system depends on accountability. Every defendant is given opportunities to appear, to respond, and to defend themselves. But when those opportunities are ignored, enforcement becomes necessary. Without enforcement, court orders would become meaningless, and justice could not be carried out fairly for anyone. After reviewing the file one final time, the judge makes a clear and decisive ruling. Because the bench warrants were properly issued and remain active, the court orders that they be executed immediately. The decision is not dramatic in tone, but its impact is immediate and unmistakable. Officers who have been standing quietly nearby step forward as the reality of the ruling settles over the room. The defendant is informed that he is being taken into custody based on the outstanding warrants. What moments earlier was a verbal exchange now turns into direct action, demonstrating how quickly the legal process can shift from discussion to enforcement. The defendant is escorted away from the podium and led out of the courtroom to be processed and transported to the county jail. The judge notes that bond has been set for each warrant, meaning the defendant will remain in custody unless the required amounts are posted according to court rules. As order returns to the courtroom, the moment serves as a powerful reminder of how the system functions. The legal process offers multiple chances for participation and defense, but it also requires cooperation and respect. Ignoring notices, missing hearings, or refusing to acknowledge the court's authority does not make a case disappear, it usually makes the situation more serious. The judge's handling of the hearing underscores a central principle of the justice system. The law applies consistently, regardless of personal beliefs, titles, or arguments about sovereignty. Courts operate on documented facts, established procedures, and enforceable orders. When those orders are not followed, consequences follow. For anyone watching, the hearing illustrates how important it is to stay informed about one's case, appear when required, and approach the courtroom with preparation and seriousness. Even relatively routine charges can escalate into custody and additional legal trouble when court instructions are ignored. The events of the hearing unfold as a clear example of cause and effect within the judicial system. Missed appearances lead to warrants. Warrants lead to enforcement. And enforcement can happen the very moment a person stands before the judge again. In the end, the case is not defined by dramatic speeches or complex legal theory, but by simple procedural realities. The court gave orders. Those orders were not followed. And when the defendant finally appeared, the system responded exactly as the law allows. What began as another scheduled hearing ultimately becomes a demonstration of judicial authority, personal responsibility, and the importance of respecting the legal process. It shows that in a courtroom, preparation matters, attendance matters, and understanding the rules matters, because once the judge makes a ruling, the consequences are immediate and real.